Struggling? Listen, what if I told you that the pain you're feeling right now isn't the end, but the sign that you're only one step away from your breakthrough? This could be the message that changes everything for you. There comes a point in every man's life when the weight feels unbearable, when the relationship you thought would last forever shatters, when your career crumbles beneath your feet, when death or betrayal leaves you broken and alone. Maybe right now, you're in that place. Maybe you've been asking yourself, why does it feel like everything is falling apart? But here's the truth. The pain you feel is not the end of your story. It's not a punishment. It's a preparation. You are closer to your breakthrough than you realize. The struggle, the silence, the pressure, it all points to one thing. Change is coming. A new chapter is about to open. This video is for every man standing in the fire of hardship, wondering if he can go on. Because today, we're not just talking about survival, we're talking about breakthrough. We're going to uncover 8 powerful signs that your breakthrough is closer than you think. These are not cliches or empty promises. They are real, raw truths that will help you recognize the shift that is happening in your life. You will learn why the darkest moments often come right before the light breaks through. You will understand why loss, failure, and the urge to quit are not signs of defeat, but signals that victory is near. We'll dive deep into how God uses trials to shape you, how Christ never leaves you in the storm, and how the pressure you feel is the very proof that your future is being prepared. So don't just watch, lean in. Let these words ignite something inside you. Because if you're here, if you're listening, it's not an accident. This message was meant to find you. And by the end, you'll see, your breakthrough is not far away. It's already on the horizon. Sign number 1. The darkest hour before dawn. There is a timeless truth that echoes across cultures and centuries. The night is always darkest before the dawn. When you are closest to your breakthrough, life often doesn't feel lighter, it feels heavier. Problems pile up all at once. Doors slam shut. People you trusted disappear. Obstacles rise like mountains in front of you. And in those moments, you might ask yourself, why is everything falling apart right when I'm trying the hardest? The answer is simple but profound, because you are closer to change than ever before. Breakthroughs are not birthed in comfort, they are born in pressure. Just as a seed faces the crushing weight of soil before it sprouts into the light, you too face your greatest weight before your greatest growth. When the darkness feels unbearable, it is often because light is just moments away from breaking through. Imagine standing outside on the coldest night of winter. The air is biting, the silence heavy, and the black sky endless. Yet, within hours, the horizon will begin to glow. The same is true in your life. Your darkest hour is not a sign of defeat. It is a signal that dawn is near. Think about the story of every warrior, every hero, every survivor. The greatest battles always come right before the greatest victories. The boxer takes the hardest punches in the final round. The soldier faces the fiercest fire just before the enemy breaks. And the climber feels the thin, crushing air as they near the summit. These are not coincidences. They are patterns of life. Pressure peaks just before the breakthrough. Spiritually, this truth is no less powerful. Jesus himself endured the darkest night of the soul, the agony in the garden, the betrayal, the cross, before the light of resurrection dawned. If even he had to pass through such crushing weight before the ultimate victory, why would we expect our path to be any easier? The darkness you face is not proof that God has abandoned you. It is proof that he is preparing you. The silence of the night does not mean he is absent. It means He is working behind the scenes, setting the stage for your transformation. But here's the challenge. In that darkest hour, you will be tempted to quit, to surrender, to believe the lie that this is the end of your story. That is why so many people miss their breakthrough. They give up one step too soon. They stop digging just before they strike gold. They stop running just before the finish line. They stop believing just before the miracle. So hear this. The pain you feel right now, the crushing weight, the unbearable silence. This is not your ending. It is your beginning. You are standing on the threshold of dawn. Every tear you have cried, every battle you have fought, every sleepless night you have endured has brought you to this point. And though it feels like you are breaking, what is really happening is that something inside you is being reborn. Do not give up. Do not mistake the night for forever. The sun is rising, even if you cannot see it yet. And when that first light breaks across your horizon, you will understand that every second of darkness was worth it. The darkest hour is not your destruction. It is your sign that your breakthrough is near. Sign number 2, losing what no longer serves you. There is a strange cruelty in loss. It arrives abrupt and absolute, and for a while it feels like a storm that will never pass. A relationship collapses. A job that paid the bills and fed your pride disappears. Friends you trusted withdraw. You wake up in a house that suddenly seems too big for one man. The immediate sensation is bereavement, and grieving is real and holy. But if you look with the eye of meaning, loss can be the clearest sign that a breakthrough is near. When something is taken from your hands, space appears, and breakthroughs need space. A garden cannot grow when every inch is crowded. Fruit needs cleared ground. God sometimes clears our life, not as punishment, but as preparation. The pots in your life, the people, the comfort zones, the familiar roles. Some things were never meant to climb with you. They were scaffolding, temporary supports that had to come down before the permanent structure could be raised. The potter takes away clay to reveal the vessel. Wood is stripped from the frame to allow the statue to emerge. What you think is ruin may be the artisan's careful removal to shape you for what's next. This pain will teach you to notice what lasts. Loss forces a sifting. You learn who truly cares, which values are worth defending, which dreams were yours and which were borrowed. In the silence after goodbye, you'll begin to hear a different voice, the one that shapes destiny. It is quieter but truer. You'll be forced into choices you once postponed. That pressure reveals priorities and refines purpose. Spiritually, the Bible is full of this pattern. Joseph was betrayed, sold, and imprisoned, each loss stripping away illusions and placing him exactly where God could form him for the palace. David was anointed in a field far from the throne. The Lord removed what stood in the way of his plan, not to harm, but to prepare. When doors close, God is not always saying no. Often, He is making room for a door that will swing open wider than you dared imagine. So how should you stand in the middle of loss? First, grieve. Honor what was true and what you invested. Then, refuse the narrative of finality. Say aloud, "This loss is not the end of my story." Invest the most precious resource you have, time, into growth. Read, pray, repair what you can, and let God do the rest. Use the empty room to train, to create, to plan the life that requires courage. In time, what was stripped will make room for what will carry weight. Your breakthrough will not come by patching the old. It will come by building the new on cleared ground. Loss is not failure. Loss is a clearing. And in the silence of that clearing, God can plant the seeds of something far more faithful and strong than what you pleaded to keep. Sign number 3, the urge to give up. You reach a point where your limbs ache, your faith feels threadbare, and your voice inside whispers, "Stop, this is futile." The urge to give up is a brutal, convincing thief. It arrives with drama, the missed call that would have been good news, the deal that crumbled, the rejection that landed when you'd least expected it. It shows you the ledger of your effort and highlights the red ink. But underneath that temptation lies a paradox. The urge to quit often stands directly at the doorstep of breakthrough. Imagine a runner in the final miles. Every fiber in his body screams for the race to end. But the finish line is the exact reason the body is rebelling. Because the final meters require more than muscle. They require a decision. In life, your muscles are your routines, your habits, your perseverance. When those begin to fail, the heart is tested. The enemy's strategy is straightforward. Convince you to surrender just short of victory. He knows most people will quit when they are tired enough. That's why persistence is the rare currency of triumph. You must understand this. Fatigue and doubt are not proof of wrongness. They are markers of proximity. They signify you have been wrestling in the arena and that the final test has come. The people who reach their breakthrough are not those who never felt despair. They are those who chose to stand when despair waved a white flag. It is not the absence of pain that marks the hero. It's the refusal to be governed by it. What to do when the urge to quit arrives? First, name it. Say, "This is the voice telling me to stop." Name gives distance. Then, rehearse truth. Speak the small, stubborn facts aloud. You started for reasons that mattered. You have survived worse days. God's track record is faithful. Replace the enemy's script with one true sentence. I will take the next step. Not the leap, the next step. Draw a line between fatigue and direction. Rest when your strength is spent, but do not change your course because you are tired. Find community. One honest brother to whom you say, "I might stop." Let their voice be the rope that pulls you out. Pray, even if it is only, "Lord, help me take one more step." That prayer changes the mechanics of survival. Suddenly, your struggle is shared, and burdens lift. The urge to give up is a storm test of your commitment. The man who refuses to go home despite every reason to quit is the one who will write a legacy. The test is not whether you feel desperate. It is what you choose in the face of desperation. Choose to rise. Choose the one step. Your breakthrough often waits just beyond the moment you almost said, "Enough." Sign number 4, inner transformation and a new perspective. When breakthrough is near, the world around you may not change at first, but you do. The first sign is not external fireworks. It is quiet and internal. Your thinking shifts, your appetite for truth sharpens, and the small corners of your identity begin to alter. You notice things differently. What used to sting now seems to teach. What once dominated your mind now sits like a less threatening guest. This inner transformation is subtle but decisive. It anchors you for the external changes that will follow. Think of the moment when a sculptor hits the right angle on a block of marble. There is no trumpet sound, yet the statue's form becomes clearer. So it is inside you. You begin to see your story with narrative eyes, not as a series of random blows, but as a plot that is being written with purpose. Your past becomes context, not destiny. Your failures begin to look like furniture used to build a stronger home. Pain, instead of a sentence, becomes grammar teaching you new speech. Spiritually, this transformation aligns your inner will with God's. The quiet prayers you once whispered might harden into a steady conversation. You stop bargaining and begin to listen. The scriptures become less like instruction manuals and more like lifelines. Faith is no longer a program. It becomes the lens through which you discern moments. And that shift matters because God builds from the inside out. He does not simply rearrange circumstances. He remakes hearts. The change also affects your relationships. You start to set boundaries where none existed. You desire truth over convenience. You find yourself less swayed by applause and more tethered to calling. This will cost you. Some people won't like who you are becoming, but it will also draw the right ones nearer. The old comforts recede while authentic opportunity begins to align with your new posture. Practically, nurture this transformation by cultivating disciplines that hack your attention. Solitude, slow reading, focused prayer, and honest conversation with a companion in faith. Journal your small shifts, how your response to pain changes, what you forgive, what you no longer tolerate. Celebrate tiny victories where your reaction now betrays a newer, steadier man. The visible breakthrough will arrive, but it will find you ready because you have been remade. So if you sense a subtle recalibration, your values tightening, your hope deepening, know this: it is a sign. The inside of you is being ready to hold more than what you could carry before. Stand still enough to feel it, and brave enough to follow it. The world will eventually mirror the inward change, because God's renovations always flow from soul to circumstance. Sign number 5. Small, unexpected openings appear. Breakthrough rarely arrives as a single thunderclap. More often, it precedes with a string of small doors that mysteriously swing open. An offhand message with a contact you needed, a short-term gig that bridges you to stability, an idea that hits at 3 a.m., a line in a sermon that lands like a spark. These are tiny, inexplicable openings, seemingly minor, but strategically timed. They are the soft drum roll before the orchestra of change. These openings matter because they are God's logistics. He does not always rewrite the map at once. He hands you one waypoint at a time. Each small opportunity is a test of readiness and faithfulness. Will you take the odd job and do it with excellence? Will you answer the seemingly random phone call and say, yes? Will you write the first paragraph, even if you don't know the whole book? Your responsiveness to small doors determines whether you will be allowed through the large gate. The cinematic way to see this: imagine a siege where the weakest guard leaves his post and a man slips through a tiny gap, an opening too small to draw attention, but large enough for destiny to pass. Those gaps are not accidents. The universe rearranges itself, often imperceptibly, to accommodate the next season. When you notice them, gratitude should be your immediate response. Thankfulness tunes your heart to receive more. But beware 2 pitfalls. First, dismissing small openings because they are imperfect. Pride leads you to wait for grand, polished invitations. Humble the posture. Second, overvaluing every small sign and mistaking noise for signal. Discernment matters. Pray for clarity. Is this a stepping stone or a distraction? A wise brother, a trusted mentor, or scripture can help you evaluate. Practically, keep a ready spirit. Say yes to the doors that align with your calling, even when the pay is small or the timing awkward. Be meticulous with the small tasks. Excellence in little things translates into readiness for big responsibilities. Keep your eyes open in ordinary places, coffee shops, late-night messages, volunteer shifts. Breakthrough often begins where boredom and faith intersect. When you start seeing these openings, do not marvel only at their timing, marvel at the coordination. Recognize them as a network of provision. Walk through with courage. Each small yes compounds. Before long, those tiny openings will link into a highway, and you will realize that the breakthrough was not a surprise at all. It was a sequence, and you were faithful at each step. Sign number 6. Resistance intensifies as you near the summit. There is a cruel arithmetic to pressure. As you ascend, the weight increases. The higher you climb toward your breakthrough, the more resistance you will encounter. Doors that opened before may shut. Critics get louder. Unseen complications appear. It's as if the universe amplifies friction just when you are closest to changing gears. This is not coincidence. It is proof that you are on the right trajectory. Think of a heavy storm that gathers before the sun breaks. The wind seems determined to push you backward. That wind is not always your enemy. It tests whether your foundation is firm and whether your resolve is real. In the spiritual economy, trials at the top separate the prepared from the wishful. If you want the summit, you must be willing to endure the last, sharpest cut. This intensification will feel personal. People who once encouraged you may become skeptical. Sleep will be interrupted. Money may tighten. Obstacles will arrive in multiples, as if the universe is building its own chain around your momentum. But remember, pressure reveals the metal you're made of. It proves whether your faith is performative or forged. First, reframe resistance as confirmation, not condemnation. When it intensifies, say, "This is the proof that I'm nearly there." Anchor yourself in small, unshakable rituals. Prayer, reading, the same 5-minute disciplines you kept when nobody watched. Second, sharpen strategy. Resistance often exposes weak systems. Improve your plan, upgrade your relationships, and remove anything that steals your margin. Importantly, call for aid. Even Moses had Aaron and Hur to hold up his arms while the battle turned. Strengthen your web of allies. Speak openly about your struggle with trusted men. Admit that the climb is heavy. Shared burden multiplies the capacity to carry. Finally, keep a long memory. Look back at earlier seasons and recall how you overcame lesser tests. Your present resistance will be another chapter in that pattern. The enemies that seem tallest now will appear smaller in retrospect. Press on with the confidence that the pressure is not a sign of failure. It is the crucible that tempers the breakthrough. When the resistance grows loudest, that is precisely when victory is arranging its quiet entrance. Hold tighter, move smarter, and refuse to be pushed off the path. The summit requires one more determined ascent, and you were built for this. Sign number 7, synchronicity and small divine confirmations. There are moments when life begins to hum with coincidences that are too meaningful to be mere chance. A verse drops into your heart at exactly the right hour. Someone mentions the very name you were praying for. A book falls open to a line that answers your silent question. These synchronistic moments are like breadcrumbs, small, timely confirmations that you are on the path intended for you. When breakthroughs are near, the world seems to line up to whisper, "Keep going." Synchronicity is God's gentle logistics. It does not always shout. Often it leans close and taps your shoulder. You'll notice patterns, symbols, repeated numbers, recurring phrases, things that draw your attention and push you toward a decision. These are not mere comfort, they are invitations. They say, this way, this way, this is part of the story. What makes these moments distinct is their timing. Unlike the ordinary reflections that come and go, synchronicity aligns with your inner season. A card arrives from nowhere that contains the exact encouragement you needed that morning. A conversation opens a door you hadn't considered. A sermon points to an action you felt afraid to take. These are the universe's winks, divine nods to your advancing destiny. How should you respond? First, cultivate sensitivity. The mind saturated with noise misses subtlety. Practice silence, early mornings, brief pauses, moments of quiet gratitude, so you can hear the small knock. Second, act. Synchronicity often requires a yes. That unexpected text from an old friend might be the connection you need. Return the call. That small nudge to write an email might lead to a partnership. The test of faith in these moments is not merely noticing, but responding. Third, document. Keep a journal of small confirmations. Later, when doubt creeps in, you will have a ledger of God's faithfulness. Such records fuel courage and remind you that you are not aimless. Finally, interpret with humility. Not every coincidence is divine. Discernment is necessary. But when a cluster of signs points one way and your spirit feels aligned, treat it as guidance. Synchronicity is like a gentle current beneath the surface. If you row with it, it will carry you farther than you imagined. When these confirmations begin to pile up, do not shrug them off as luck. Receive them as the soft orchestration of a God who is both immense and intimately involved. Your breakthrough is being threaded into your days, stitch by stitch, and these moments are the stitches you will one day show with gratitude. Sign number 8, new strength emerging, the muscle of endurance. When breakthrough draws near, something practical happens in you. Endurance is built. Not the vague, motivational kind that sits on posters, but a concrete, gritty muscle of persistence. You find resources you didn't know you had. Your heart learns longer patience. Your hands build steadier work. You rise earlier, last longer, and create when inspired energy is gone. This emerging strength is the final labor before change. Endurance is not instantaneous. It accrues like rings in a tree. Each hardship, each repeated habit, each disciplined refusal adds a layer. Over time, you look back and realize that small acts, waking up when you wanted to stay in bed, making one more call when doors closed, have become the architecture of your persistence. That architecture supports higher load. Now, when you are tested, you do not crumble. You flex and keep going. There's an almost sacred quality to this muscle. It is forged by consistent little decisions, choosing truth over rumor, obedience over convenience, faith over despair. Spiritually, endurance is sanctified by prayer and obedience. Scripture celebrates those who endure to the end. That is not platitude. Endurance prepares the heart to receive blessing and steward it well. Although the visible signs of this change are practical, you worry less about applause and more about habit. You build margin in relationships and finances. You are honest about limits but refuse resignation. You begin to sleep better because you have aligned your days with disciplined work. Even your posture changes, literally. Shoulders back, jaw set, eyes ahead. Others notice. They start to rely on you. Your life becomes a steady drumbeat rather than a random burst of sound. But as your endurance grows, so does responsibility. Strength draws invitations to lead. The trials you overcame position you to carry those who will come after you. This is the paradox. Your breakthrough is not only for your relief, it is for your readiness to carry blessing into other lives. Nurture this muscle by practicing the mundane things with excellence. Keep promises to yourself. Build rhythms, work, rest, prayer, exercise that sustain you. Celebrate small victories. When fatigue screams, remember past mornings you overcame. Anchor yourself in community that recruits you to keep going. When you feel a new steadiness settling in your bones, you are close. The muscle of endurance is the last structural work before the door opens. It will carry you through the initial wave of change and keep you faithful when the bright new season tests your humility. Rise with that new strength. Your breakthrough is not only near, it will find you able to hold it, steward it, and pass it forward.